All right, everybody, welcome to the
No,
Tuesday night
have to
edition
report.
of the Naturally Connected Life Connected Roots monthly group call. And so now ramping these up, we're going to have a lot more topics. Tonight, I'm going to talk about how life is holistic. The universe is holistic. And it's a pretty simple way to understand that. It just means that if there's a problem, there's also a solution, meaning that the universe is whole, it's complete. You cannot have a problem without a potential solution are also existing. And so this applies to everything, including our health. And as soon as we start to approach our health this way, we can understand is that, well, if we feel like our body is presenting problems, it's dysfunctional, then we can understand is that, well, that is actually just as likely to be a problem as it is to be a solution. It could be a problem for us because it's uncomfortable, but it is just as likely to be a solution to a problem that your body is trying to solve. For example, if you have an infection, you get a fever. You might not feel that great when you have a fever, but without that fever, it would be much harder for your immune system to fight off an infection. And if we don't come at a fever with that type of understanding, well, we might be more likely to suppress even a very mild fever, a fever that's not actually dangerous, because we just think that fevers are bad. So yes, a fever over 104 degrees, probably dangerous. But a fever of 101, 102 maybe even, probably doesn't need medication. And in fact, if you tried to medicate and suppress that response, you're probably going to make infection worse. So that's just one example. And in health, there are many, many, many other examples of this. One of my favorites that really angers a lot of people is with vitamin D. So everybody thinks we should be supplementing with vitamin D3. And vitamin D3, that specific form, all it does is increases how much calcium our bodies absorb. And everybody says, oh, well, you should just take K2 to balance that out. And I go, well, what if my body doesn't want all that calcium? Maybe that's why the vitamin D levels that are tested for are a little bit lower. But maybe those vitamin D levels aren't low at all. And in fact, a lot of the research shows is that there is no seasonal variability in the form of vitamin D that actually matters, 25-OHD. And when we go and get blood work done, all they test is 125-OHD. And that is not the same as taking vitamin D3. Now, over time, if we're supplementing with D3, that might increase our 125-OHD, but at what cost? And so, a lot of research shows that, yeah, that there is a cost to supplementing with D3, which is actually a steroid hormone. And most of the people that do benefit from D supplementation are people who have an autoimmune disorder. So if we look at this in a holistic sense, what this is telling you is that somebody who benefits from supplementing with D, a steroid, is actually benefiting from its immunosuppressive properties, because that's what steroids do. Any type of steroid that's injected into the body or an inhaler is going to have an immunosuppressive response. So why would those people feel better? Well, if they have autoimmune, this is going to suppress their immune system from attacking what are otherwise healthy cells. But nobody's asking the question, why is the immune system attacking those healthy cells? And the reality is that those cells have probably become unhealthy in some way. And there could be many ways that that has happened. One of which could be that there's too much calcium entering the cells and they're swelling and becoming dysfunctional. And that causes them to either die prematurely or just not work as well, cause swelling. And then the immune system might come and attack that. And this could be happening in places like the thyroid, where the thyroid cells are swelling from too much of the wrong minerals like calcium. And what is the thyroid has been trying to uh, protect itself by making nodules. Those are calcium nodules. But when that starts dysfunctioning and can't keep up, then you get autoimmune. And this is why a lot of thyroid diseases are classified as autoimmune. So the question isn't, oh, am I deficient in consuming hormone steroid D? The question is, why is my body reacting this way? What is the benefit that it's reaping? And if I want to change that, what do I actually need to change? This works for our finances too. So I actually got this kind of analogy from a guy named David Nagel. And that's one of the things he said. He's like, well, so maybe your cat needs $5,000 of surgery. That you can see that as a problem, or you can see that as a solution that already presents itself, and just say, well, okay, great. This is what I've got to do. And then the universe will support me in making this happen. I don't have to worry about it. And so when we adopt a holistic mindset to dealing with all of our problems and just looking at the world in general, all of a sudden, everything becomes to our benefit. So a major shift for me was realizing, oh, wow, my years and years of chronic illness and damage from pharmaceutical drugs and from antibiotics and from recreational drug use, everything else that I did to abuse my body, was a beautiful blessing that got me to where I needed to be to actually be in a place where I could inspire not only my own healing, but others as well. And that took a dramatic shift. And I see this every day. I go online and I see people that are constantly reinforcing their identity in terms of their disease. So no matter how much better they get, they continue to identify as their disease, as their diagnosis. And the thing is that they become experts in what everybody else should be doing, but they don't actually heal themselves because they don't see the world as holistic. They only see the problem. And then the problem itself becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the point of this message is to say, okay, no matter what you're struggling with, and no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what your diagnosis, no matter what your bank account, no matter what your relationship status, your housing status, the state of the world around you, you have the choice right now to see it as a blessing, every single part of it as a blessing and to your benefit, and is here to help you become better in every way possible. So another example I like to share is, that my parents lived right around the corner from the school shooting in Parkland. And there were several examples of parents and students who, stricken by that tragedy, actually took their own lives. And it's, just compounding the tragedy. But then we have other examples of parents and children who took that tragedy and turned it into something that they could use for positive change in the world. And they did. They created a lot of awareness about mental health and how that relates to medications and access to guns. And they made a difference. Those were completely different outcomes from the same situation, the same circumstances, just based on how those people chose to see the events. One of the things I learned from training, many, many years ago, that's, very popular, that one of the first lessons that they teach you in this intensive weekend is that that the world around us, life itself, everything is inherently meaningless. until we ascribe meaning to it. And this is why you can have two people arguing in court over the same situation. One says this was great, one says this was awful. Viewpoints, the way that we choose to see things, is the only reason that anything has any real value, any real meaning. And so if we can train ourselves to practice thinking positive, focusing on there being a solution, even if we don't know what it is, we can allow ourselves to align with that solution. But if we are choosing to focus on the problem and hopelessness, we're going to get more of that. So many people, probably listening to this call would know of somebody who just seems to be so accident prone, like everything possible that could go wrong happens to this person. And even on their best day, you ask them, hey, how's it going? And their response is something like, well, still alive. Well, nothing bad's happened yet. And you find what you're looking for. You always find what you're looking for. And even in modern science, modern medical research, we see this played out as well, that research often is conducted with an inherent bias. And whatever they're looking for, they'll find. And then this carries out as people go do research on the internet. If you already know what you think you know, you're just going to find confirmation of that. So we can take these examples and extrapolate. It's very simple to see, well, if you want things to go better, if you want to feel better, if you want to be happier, if you want things to improve, you need to go looking for evidence of that. And only that. Otherwise, you're only going to find evidence of the opposite. So that's my little tirade, my little rant about the world being holistic, and that your experience is completely dependent on what you choose to focus on. And so if anybody has any questions to just open up to discussion. Yep, go ahead, Eric.
I can definitely, I'm glad that that you're saying this tonight. It just gives me, reaffirms what I got to do,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think in everyone going through a change and transformation in their life, the pull is so much to keep you in the familiar state, the state that you were in. And it's really your brain, your mind is, I mean, it's there to keep you alive. And
Yeah.
I just want to, oh no, danger, Will Robinson. danger. And
danger, Eric Levinson.
And so, yeah, so you really got to fight sometimes tooth and nail to, tooth and nail, to hold on to what you want to create. What do you want to create? And
because the struggle's in here. Yeah, that's the only struggle. And you can let go of it being a struggle. You don't have to fight. You definitely don't have to fight tooth and nail. You can make it easy. Yeah.
How do you make it so easy? I guess that's,
you decide. You just decide it's going to be easy. You
That's a
decide
hard.
it's going to be easy, and then you create that reality. And I mean, this isn't like, oh, I'm just gonna think myself out of having cancer. Or I'm gonna think myself into winning the lottery. This is about having the right mindset to do the work.
Who do I have to be in
Because
order
if you're gonna do the work, yeah, if you're gonna do the work with a negative attitude, right, you're just gonna set yourself up for failure.
I think one of the earliest pieces of advice that you gave to me, Eric, in the beginning of my journey, was that if you envision it, it will be.
Yes.
And you have to envision yourself where you want to be. That makes such a big difference.
Right.
Instead of focusing on where you're at and the negative aspects of it, if you look at where you want to be and what you want to be, then you can make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. If every 300-pound person who wanted to lose weight just focused on getting on the scale every day and reminding themselves that they're 300 pounds, they're never going to get anywhere. But if they actually can stop and envision themselves, the healthy selves, their healthy body that's trapped inside of there, and focus on that, and what will change when they get in shape and they get healthy, that can motivate you. One of my coaches, she would draw a picture of a stick figure running and kind of looking back over its shoulder and saying, this is where you put your list of fears, and your fears can motivate you. But if you're motivated by fear, you're constantly looking over your shoulder behind you. You don't know where you're going. And so the first step in any healing process, or starting a new business, or starting a new relationship, anything, is to know what you want. And thereby, the act of just declaring that you want that means that that possibility now exists. And if you can focus on what you want instead of what you're afraid of, you can keep your eyes ahead of you, what you are, in the direction you're going. So you don't just trip over yourself or run into walls and get into trouble. You can see what's coming, and you can face whatever's coming up. And so this is literally this is the two ways of looking at the world. One where we're motivated by our fears, anxieties, problems, and just trying to avoid them, which invariably ends up creating more of the same. Or we get clear, what does it look like? When we have everything that we want, our health, finances, our relationships, work, everything. What does that look like? And if you haven't stopped to think about that, this is your invitation. This is why so many successful people say, if you plan to be successful, you need to have a plan. So what is your 1 month, 6 month, 1 year, 5-year, 10-year plan? What is it going to look like if you accomplish these things? Why do you want to accomplish these things? Why is this important to you? Nobody wants to get healthy just because it's better to be healthy. When we're healthy, we can enjoy more time with our grandkids. When we're healthy, we can do more of the things that we said we want to do, rather than just feeling tired and watching TV. So if we want to tap into the universe's potential to support us, we need to be able to clearly articulate what it is that we want and why. Then do the work. Then we do the work knowing that the universe is going to support us. The solutions already exist. And we don't have to fight tooth and nail. It doesn't have to be a struggle. It can be easy. It might take a long time because that's usually things that are worthwhile take a long time. It doesn't mean it has to be a struggle. We don't have to sacrifice anything to have the things that we want. Alrighty, so since this is an evening call, we're gonna, want to keep it a little bit short and sweet. Any brief closing remarks? Alrighty, folks. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. And I'll post this video so that you can watch it at your leisure. And then share any insights or anything that happens for you from being on the call tonight. All right. Thanks,
Thank you
Eric.
so much. Rick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. Good night.
Good night.